Hello, everyone. My name is Ali, and I'll be reading a story out to you guys with some important facts in between. So, this story is about a boy named JD. JD was a very popular boy in school. He was the captain of the football team. He dated the prettiest girl in school. He had good grades, loving, caring, supportive parents. You name it, he had everything. He lived in a very fancy neighborhood, drove very fancy cars. All his clothing products were Armani or Gucci. JD was a rich kid. And people did envy him, like everyone envied him so much, but everyone loved him too at the same point. They envied him as much as they loved him. Although JD was everything we wanted to be, he was not happy. He was dating the hottest girl in school, or should I say the prettiest girl in school, and in front of us, he was not happy. There was something about him that bothered him a lot, and later on the years, it became quite visible. Um, JD was a very happy-go-lucky kid, as I mentioned before, but on the outside and the inside, he had some demons on his own. So we all knew he had a secret, uh, which none of us knew what it was, but it was getting to a point where it started to show a lot at the later stages, and he was not the same JD we knew back then. JD did date the prettiest girl in school, as I mentioned before, but he was not in love with her. Later, we found out JD was in love with a boy named Paul, a very shy, socially awkward kid in school. JD was a homosexual, as you might presume by now. When people found out in school that JD was intimate with Paul, everyone made fun of him for being gay, and his own friends bullied him, shoved him in his locker, made fun of him at the changing room, also beat up Paul for apparent no reason. They never beat up JD, but they did beat up his lover, as you say it. JD and Paul were both victims of homophobia and hate crime, or as you want to mention it, they were both victims of homophobic hate crime. JD and uh, so you see where the story is going. So what I'm trying to get through here is that I'm going to talk about homophobic hate crime, how it affects us, what it is, uh, how it affects the victims especially, and what could be the outcome of simply calling someone a name, and which probably doesn't mean anything when we say it, but it does affect people in different ways. According to my research, 1 in 6 lesbian, gay, and bisexual people have experienced homophobic hate crime over the last 3 years. Two-thirds of those experienced a hate crime did not report it to anyone. Fewer than 1 in 10 victims who reported hate crimes to the police just led to a conviction. Nothing at all, nothing further than that. About 26% of lesbian, gay and bisexual people hide their true sexual orientation just so they don't face homophobic hate crime. So, as you can see, people do hide their true identities, and they don't want to express themselves. They can't express themselves due to society and the way people are being judged nowadays. And it's been going on for a while. It's an ongoing thing for centuries now. There has been an increase of 8% of hate crime against homosexuals, according to an article on CNN written by Haley Middlebrook. An article from Stonewall.org states that 48% of trans people under the age of 26 years old said they have attempted suicide. 30% said they had done so in the past, attempted suicide, while 59% said that they had at least thought about committing suicide at least once in their life. JD was one of the most smartest boys in school, with a very bright future. So why did all these go crumbling down at one point? It was because JD was different. He was not accepted to be normal anymore. Before people found out he was gay, everyone was in love with JD. They wanted to be friends with him. They wanted to be him. Girls wanted to be with him. And as soon as they found out that he's been seeing Paul and he's not, as they call it, in the social norm, people started turning their backs on him, started beating him up, shoving them in lockers and stuff. The only fault JD had, according to society, was that he loved the wrong gender. JD became a victim of hate crime, and not knowing that what was right or wrong, he went into depression at later stages. JD lost everything just because he was gay. He lost his friends, his teammates. He lost um, all of his future. He also lost Paul at the process because Paul couldn't take it at one point, and he just left. He couldn't get bullied, and he was too much under the radar. In 2016, 27 gay, lesbian, and bisexual people were reportedly killed in the United States alone. That's 27 people in 1 year killed just because of their sexual orientation, making it the deadliest year on record for people with different sexual orientations, with at least 7 trans women killed in the first 3 months of this year. According to CNN, this year sadly is on a pace to break the record. And like I said, even though transitioning to a new year, which leads to new social acceptabilities, people are still not seeing homosexuality or trans people as being the social norm, no matter how many countries can legalize gay marriage or whatnot. But there are still people who are still killing other people for their sexual orientation and the way they dress or the way they are or the way they speak or even their skin color. I could never see JD graduate school. Never saw JD attend college with a football scholarship, and never saw him become a professional football player like he always dreamed of. JD, and I definitely never saw JD happy ever again. More than 34,000 people die by suicide each year, which is the third most leading cause of death on the world. That's 34,000 people each year. And most of them who decide to kill themselves are around 15 to 24-year-olds. With the one thing that they all had in common was that at least more than half of the percentage of suicides were caused because of people being mistreated, and mostly because they were homosexual or lesbian or bi, and they all faced hate crime. JD is one of them. So, like I said, mostly 15 to 24-year-olds who could not take the pressure, who is a victim of everyday hate crime, kill themselves each year. And JD was no different. JD was a victim of homophobic hate crime, and he was one of the people who killed themselves with the 34,000. JD hung himself in his bedroom at the end of the summer right before school started. The world lost another bright young soul. He was only 18 but when he died. And this is the message. This story is the message what we should be sharing with people, that what one word or one act can do to a person. How shoving someone into a locker just because they're in love with someone else of the same gender maybe is not a crime. We have to show people, we have to think about it and show how is that harming anyone just because they're not like you or me, or even if they are. And also the reason why people are not being open, not being honest about their sexual orientation. So these are the things to think about, and how we can open our eyes. It could be anyone. It could be our family member. It could be our friends who are facing the same things and we don't even know about it. Everything could be happening right under our nose, and we have no idea what's going on. And yet we claim to be so open about everything. So why is it that so many people in the United States, one of the world's largest country, still killing people just because they are not on the social norm and they're not seeing eye to eye on every aspect? Well, this was my story, and thank you very much for listening. Hope you guys liked it, and please feel free to comment on it. Thank you.